حبيبي يا نور العين يا ساكن خيالي. I got my Habibis in the house. On the rhythm section.
I love it. Now we have two theme songs.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Habibis, three game developers singing about good Arab tea.
We'll keep the singing to you, Fauzi.
I'm your host for today, Fawzi Mesmar.
And I do the percussion for today, Rami Ismail.
And I guess I just laugh along. Osama
I love it.
For the people who don't know what just happened, that is Amr Diab's Habibi Ya Noor Al-Ain, which is probably what is like the Western equivalent of Ya Noor
don't think
Al-Ain.
there's something as ubiquitous as
Maybe
it's
We Will Rock You is like a close thing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that song that got popular for like 3 years and was played everywhere all the time,
But like
just continuously.
it's
I think it's
still
classic
played.
at this point. It's played
It's played
everywhere.
Right.
every single wedding I go to now,
Yep.
sometimes twice.
Yep. Yeah, it is the song, I think. It is also Amr Diab ages backwards, which is
Yes, which is very weird.
He is Benjamin Button.
Yeah, he kind of like aged up, and then at some point he was like, nah, back is better.
But I'm not kidding. For the last like 2.5 decades, maybe 3 decades, I don't remember when it was launched. You hear it like every single wedding, once or twice. It is everywhere, and it's really catchy.
He's the master of catchy tunes.
It really is.
Man, like it's incredible. This guy keeps on putting albums. All of his albums is like ubiquitous across the Middle East. Everybody singing all of his songs. It was wild. I think I've never bought I never like myself went and bought an Amr Diab like tape or tape.
Do you need to?
or CD. But I know every single song by heart. It's because you can't exist in the Middle East without knowing or hearing Amr Diab everywhere you go, basically.
Yeah.
And he has this song called Habibi Ya Noor Al-Ain.
Yeah. He has so many. He has a lot of bangers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's on the show right now.
Yeah.
I'm introducing yourself.
It's a Yoko.
Yeah.
I'm Amr Diab.
Oh my god, he sounds just like Fauzi. That came out of nowhere. That was good.
Who would have thought?
I'm crying.
Yeah, me too. I need a moment. Obviously, you're the host. You do something.
Yeah, that was good.
So good to talk to you, Habibis. Actually, I saw Rami.
We saw each other in real life.
Yes, I saw the picture. The
Yeah.
same height picture. It was wonderful. Loved it.
Yeah, that took some effort, that photo.
Which conference was that in?
That was DEFCOM in Gdansk.
Yeah,
There's
Poland.
it's the same DEFCOM as in Cologne, but in Poland?
No, that's DEFCOM. This is DEFGOM.
What? Wait, what? Like
the DEFCOM is spelled DEFCOM, and
yes.
then DEFGOM is spelled GAMM. It's a mostly Eastern European Games Conference. It has that energy, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And DEFCOM has been doing events throughout Eastern Europe before the war in Russia, before the war in Ukraine, but also in I think in Latvia, in used to be in Belarus and Lithuania, and now also in Poland.
Yeah, then they're like moved following the war. They're now like doing it in a lot of different countries. So like there's the one in Poland. They're doing one in Lithuania in the summer, and another one in Portugal. I think later in the year. So yeah,
That's
Nothing can
awesome.
stop these guys from doing game dev stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. And Rami and I were there, and we wanted to take a photo together. And the person that's taking the photo is really struggling to
Yeah.
keep both of us in frame.
So I just went and like basically like had to kneel down to be
Yeah,
the same height as Fauzi.
And
Rami bent the
Fozzy's
knee.
not even short. That's the crazy part. That's what I don't get. Like,
You
I mean,
guys are huge.
we're
Yeah,
just
like,
big. And
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I feel small, like next to Rami too. Well, at least short. Maybe not small, but at
right.
least short next to
Yeah,
Rami.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm just Dutch, so here I'm slightly above average.
Is
Rami
Um,
and Rami and I are continuing the tradition, and now you're in it as well, Osama. In which like we always see each other, but never in the
Never the
countries where
three.
we're actually living.
Yeah, and also very rarely the three of us. That has only happened one time.
One
once,
time,
and it's going to happen a second time.
yeah,
Inshallah,
inshallah, and
inshallah,
GDC.
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Yeah.
I'm still not locked in for GDC,
Oh,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not sure yet. But it's a likely, but it's not a yes yet.
Okay.
okay. You
That's
know what I
fair.
love about Arabs is that, like, when there's an event that's happening, like, we're gonna meet in GDC, then Arabs are like, inshallah, if this, like, terrible thing doesn't happen, like, let's survive the air ride first, and then we'll see.
And then
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. I'll see if I can make it there.
Let's all make it there in one piece, then
Yep.
we'll see. But
Let's
yeah,
not. I have to say though, like in terms of terrible travel stories, I think the best one that ever happened to me was last year at GDC. The TSA impounded my shaving kit,
what?
so I
What?
couldn't shave. And that's because I hadn't shaven before GDC. I'm like, I'm going to go to GDC. I'm going to shave before I go outside, right? Um, I'm going to shave before I go outside, and then I'll just be clean shaven. I'll look good. Like I'll have my normal beard and everything. But because my kid was missing, my friend Ferris went out and bought like a manual shaving thing because I literally had nothing. I was arriving late, like everything was closing already, and he was like, I messaged him. I'm like, well, they took my stuff, and he was just like, no, Habibi, listen, I'm gonna grab some stuff. Like, tell me where your hotel is. I'll make sure it's there, right? So I got this tiny little, like, very very nice hygiene kit, basically with a manual shave, but like. I have an Arab beard. Like you can't just go and manually shave like that. You're gonna bleed all over because it's thick hair and it's a lot, right? So you normally want to soften it up a bit with a trim or a shave or anything like it, but um, the um, the basic result was that I could shave sort of my cheeks, but not sort of my mustache. That was grown a little too large to shave it, and from that point, I've had this sort of like mustache around my mouth
Mm.
on top of the beard, and frankly, looking at old photos of myself, this looks way better. I like how this looks much more. So I'm just like, thanks TSA for being racists. Thanks for the racism. You helped me find my style.
I remember they also took your shirts, right?
Yeah,
That
that
was
happened as well. They also took my passport once. That was terrifying.
what? Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
oh.
Well, they eventually gave it back, but
It's still
they
terrifying. Yeah.
yeah, I was missing my passport for like 2 hours. At San Francisco, they have this weird thing where they take your passport by putting it in a plastic box and putting that on a necklace, and then putting the necklace around you.
Wait, that is so weird.
And you
Well,
can't
why?
take the passport out until you do the things they tell you to. So you technically have a passport, you just can't leave the building with it.
That is
That's
so
weird.
odd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I saw a
You
picture of that. Did you post a
yeah,
picture of that?
yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to. They probably got in legal trouble by taking the passport from someone, and they're like, "Well, okay, we'll make sure you keep your passport then."
Okay. Huh.
Um,
Spiteful.
yeah,
wow.
Petty.
Oh, so I can see why it's not a lock for San Francisco yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I'm never a big fan of San Francisco, but I'm like extra not a fan of San Francisco post COVID. Like
Yeah.
it's rough.
I
Yeah. I
haven't
don't.
been since, so I'm kind of dreading it. But at the same time, GDC, seeing everybody, it's
Yeah,
exciting. It's
It's true.
scary.
It's true.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
like
tiring.
I don't know about the rest of the Bay Area because like I don't know how widespread it is, but downtown really does look different. It in some ways it looks like a war zone. More buildings are like shut down and boarded up, more people on the roads. Like it feels like the disparity between rich and poor is more intense now than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
And it's just getting worse. It is a like I have to say it's a really sad sight.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But hopefully, like seeing you find folk will make this a lot more exciting experience for
Hopefully,
all of
yeah.
us.
I mean, I
Inshallah.
know I'm gonna have
Inshallah.
a blast seeing y'all, but
Yeah.
assuming Rami makes it, inshallah, off the
Yeah.
plane.
Are we gonna go
Eh,
flying?
And yes, you're gonna take
I'm
us
in.
over the Golden Gate.
Yeah. If
Is
I
that
can
happening?
get it set up, yeah, absolutely.
Did you figure out the podcasting in a plane thing yet, or is that
Yeah,
not
I
yet?
have it set up, but I haven't had time to properly test it. And there's been a plot twist. There's
Uh-oh.
been a
Uh-huh.
plot twist.
There's always a plot twist.
This is a good plot twist.
Uh-huh.
So I was at Dice. Dice is another games conference. It happens in Vegas every year. It's sort of like the more
Businessy one.
it's the more businessy political one. It's a very good show. It's expensive though. I was at Dice, and I was telling some people about this plan of doing this show because I was going to fly at Dice, but then America, the U.S., the United States got hit by this terrible storm. Like, just honestly, frankly, kind of a unique storm almost. And basically, I only got an hour and a half of flying in, which means I got my checkout. I can now fly airplanes. At that flight school, I got my license converted to a U.S. license, so I'm now also a U.S. licensed pilot.
Nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
Congrats.
So I can fly airplanes in Vegas at this one flight school, and I have my license to get basically try and get that permission anywhere. So the main thing is when I get to when I was in Vegas, I was going to go test that setup, and I just didn't have time to. So I don't have confidence that it will record nicely, and I don't want to be busy with that setup in an airspace I don't know. Right? Like if I'm flying in a place where I don't know, I want to have time to sort of like either know the airspace, which I would hope 4 days in Vegas would let me know the airspace, so that the second or third day I would have time to like actually practice. But San Francisco is even more complicated airspace, and I don't think I'm going to risk it. But I was at Dice, right? And I came across this man called Bruce.
I like where this is going.
You know Bruce, right?
Yes.
So this is Bruce Slater from
Yes.
Radical Form.
Oh, I know Bruce.
Hello, Bruce.
I like where this is going as well. I love Bruce.
And basically, there's this airplane that I've wanted to buy. It's called the Sling TSI. It's a 4-person airplane, low wing, beautiful thing. There's 2 versions of that airplane you can buy. The first one is the version they built for you.
Uh-huh.
The second one is the IKEA kit
That you built yourself?
that you build yourself. It's about 3 to 6 months of work to build it properly. And it saves a lot of money. It saves enough money that you can technically hire people to build the airplane and basically come out to the same amount of money.
Okay.
And I was just sitting at Dice, and I was having a chat with Bruce, and I look at the guy, and Bruce is just an absolute madman. Bruce is the kind of person who will go in a kayak and launch himself off a waterfall and shatter his shoulder on a rock that he didn't see, and now have like a metal shoulder.
Yeah.
That's not an exaggeration. That's literally Bruce. And then you would think, well, that'll dissuade him from doing similar stuff. No, absolutely not. It makes him go, well, next time I should just dodge the rock.
I survived.
When he heard I was a pilot, the first thing he asked is if it would be legal for me to suspend a kayak from the bottom of the airplane and drop him into the water. So,
legit question.
Yeah, it is illegal, sadly, but
Who would have thought?
yeah. depending on where in the world you fly, you could probably get away with it. But
Yes.
I'm not gonna do that.
To poor Bruce.
Poor,
I hope he
poor
would
Bruce.
survive that
Well, no.
experience.
Bruce would love it. He would pass away, but he would be very happy. The sure thing is, I was looking at Bruce, and I had all that in my mind, and I just looked at him, and I'm like, "You want to build an airplane?"
What?
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm in. I don't even know what this is about, but I'm in."
Oh, that's
That
so
is
funny.
so Bruce. That is
So
hilarious.
part of me is just like, what if instead of starting with the talk show part, we start with I bring cool people to my airplane in progress, and then we just build an airplane,
That is a really cool idea. And then you fly in it.
and then I fly the airplane and I do the talk show.
Yes. And the
Wow.
canoe thing with Bruce.
Probably not do that though.
Probably not.
This show is evolving in ways that are very unpredictable.
Right.
I love it.
And given that Bruce is building it with me, neither of us really has any particular like mechanical engineering ability. So we hope we put the screws on the right way.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But I feel fairly confident that we can
Did I
pull it
say
off.
I liked where this was going? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like where
Yeah,
this is going.
I'm conflicted about where this is going.
So the good news is I've also asked some other people, among which one person that's good at electronics and one person that is a mechanical engineer.
There you
So
go.
I might have an actual crew to build this airplane with. Just don't know how I'm going to set it up because not all of them work remotely. But it's we're going to see how this evolves. Maybe I'll do that first, maybe not.
What an adventure, Yarami. Yo,
What
wow. If you had asked me to predict where that story was going, IKEA airplane with Bruce was not on my
The
As
list.
soon
minute,
as
the
I
minute
said
he said Bruce, it
yeah,
was
you
gonna
knew
go
where
in
it was
any
going.
direction. I love that guy. He
Yeah,
is
me
such a
too.
cool dude.
Yeah,
He really
I mean,
is.
the kind of person that runs a studio that you still feel is like really part of the people that are the studio, right? Like that's
Yeah,
that's rare. That's rare.
Absolutely.
no, he's a gem of a human being.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Other than constructing planes with
Right.
with adrenaline inducing folk. You guys been doing much lately? Osama, have you been playing any games or something you want to talk
Yes.
about?
Actually, I've been playing a game called Loot River. Have y'all heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't. Tell me
Yeah.
more about it. What's Loot River?
Okay. It's a top-down roguelike action combat type game where you are over water, like that's the river part, where there are platforms that you can move around, kind of like imagine like Tetris pieces, like tiles.
Uh-huh.
What was that old type of puzzle game that where you'd have one empty spot in a square and you have to move everything else to like fit everything in? It kind of feels like that while combat is happening. So it's a fusion of those two genres. It feels like a puzzle game in a sense, or an action puzzler, not an actual puzzle game, and a combat game.
Ah,
Um, yeah, so it's clever. It's two things I've never seen before. So you have
I
these
had to see
platforms.
a GIF of a game to like really understand what
Yeah,
you're
Right.
it's
talking about
hard
here.
because there's nothing else out there like it, and
Yeah.
the combination of those two things is new. It's very creative, and overall fun, but I have a
But
huge
before you
asterisk.
go to the butt and like the
Yes.
things you don't like about the game, I still want to kind of understand what's happening. What do you control, the character or the pieces?
So you control both the character and the pieces.
Ah,
You have one
both.
analog stick that moves the pieces around, and you
Uh-huh.
have your other one that moves your character around, and you're able to do both at the same time. So while the enemies are like coming at you,
Yeah.
you could actually separate them. Like if they're half on one platform, half on the other, you could separate them and just fight a few, and then bring it back and fight the rest. Or you could actually find ways to bypass them, where you move a tile like as they're jumping on the tile that you're on, you jump on another tile and move that tile away, so you
Oh,
could like
fascinating.
not have to deal with them. And that kind of thing is really cool because even though I knew that I could do that, it took me a little while before I realized that, hey, I should be strategizing with the tiles. Like initially, what I did is I'd move the tile to the enemies, fight them, move to the next one, and just there's another segment to it that's not as satisfying, where you have to actually move the tiles around to make it to the next level too. Um,
Ah,
yeah, so
so like
sometimes
there's doors are hidden and stuff like that.
exactly, or inaccessible because the different tiles are different sizes. So you're like, I can't just move this one forward. I have to move that one left and this one right, and that. Okay, now I could make it to the door, even after you defeat the enemies, or even in rooms that there are no enemies. So
Hmm.
every room you jump into, because it's like a roguelike, so it's somewhat procedurally generated. Every room you jump into, you're like, is there a threat? Yes, no. Where do I have to go? How do I get there? That's kind of the game loop, and then you get to the next room and you move on. Um,
Wow.
Overall, I really thought it was creative. That I'm very happy I tried it for that alone. Um, if I could jump into the things I kind of like a little
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
the first thing is it really just felt, other than a few clever things, it felt like um, it was missing a lot of potential. Like there were a lot of enemies that could have maybe moved the tiles for you, or like kind of obstruct you in a different way, or able to jump from one tile to the next, or like find ways to be like, okay, now we have this setup. How do we keep it interesting, right? It wasn't that. It really just felt like it was a merger of these two genres. And even though that was fun on itself, usually, like you stop and think and say, okay, now what can we do with this? It felt like that part stopped short. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next
Yeah.
thing is, it just didn't feel like there was a lot of content. Like after a very short period of time, you start to see the same enemies, you start to see the same tile patterns, and you're like, okay, that was clever. Maybe it would have been a great couple of hour game, but the 4 hours I
Hmm.
spent in it, like the last two, really felt the same as the first two. And I fell off after that. So great premise. I feel there's a lot of potential for a Loot River 2 to be an excellent game now that they have like the fundamentals down. They could do some brainstorming and come up with really cool um, enemies that use those mechanics in clever ways, new puzzles, maybe whatever, what have you. So it stops a little bit short of being great.
Hmm.
Oh, that's such a it's such an interesting mechanic,
Yeah,
uh, and like a combination of events. And I kind of like the art style of it as well. When I see it move,
I
it
agree.
has
It
like a
actually
very
looks pretty good.
very nice sense of like impact as the pieces come close together, which is pretty sweet. Has a bunch of screen shakes, which I know Rami appreciates.
Yeah, no, I really love the style. It's just really, um, it's kind of a soft pixely style.
Mm,
It's
Yeah.
nice. It has a really good vibe. Where I like that there's always sort of like experiments with what pixel art can look like, and this felt really good.
agreed. And there's some really nice touches too. Like there's a little bit of dynamic shadowing that works
Hmm.
pretty well, and
Yeah,
things like that.
exactly.
The other thing, by the way, there is a narrative to the game. There's like when you die, there's this spot that you go to, because it's a roguelike. So I mentioned that you die and you start over a few times.
Hmm.
And you talk, and there's like exposition of what the narrative of the story is. The main complaint I had about that is it felt like that's the only place that the story lived. Like it really felt that there's a disconnect between the gameplay and the story, and it wasn't explaining what was happening as much as it was telling me things I couldn't see. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it
Yeah.
thought
makes a
like,
lot of sense.
yeah, that could have been handled a little bit differently as well. But either way, I'm super happy I played it. I think it's worthwhile to check out. It had really, really cool boss designs, and yeah, recommend it at least for a short while.
You think he was going for much more after you dropped off?
I, to be
Hmm.
honest, I don't know. Like I don't know
Hmm.
what would have come afterwards. I don't know how long the game was, but like
Hmm.
yeah, it just there wasn't enough new to keep me going. That was the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Fair. I mean, like if you 4 hours is a sizable amount of time to invest
Yeah.
in a game.
Yeah.
Cool, man. You played anything else?
No, but I did watch a few things. Do you want to hear
Why
about
you
those?
watched some things? Yeah, let's hear it.
So I watched an animated TV show called Star Wars: Tales of the Jedi. Um,
Ooh, I've seen that.
Yes, you've seen it with Count Dooku, right?
It's Star Wars. I gotta watch it.
Yes. So I'm not sure if there's going to be more of it, or if this is the end of it. But I binged like the 6 episodes that were there, and it's really well done. It basically was about Count Dooku, and it starts off when he was younger and talks about his motivation. It's really for people who like Star Wars. I don't think people who don't like Star Wars will appreciate it because it kind
Hmm.
of fills in the gap of Count Dooku's story, but it does it in a very good way. That part is really really well handled, and it almost feels like the Star Wars universe is rich enough that it could support another season where it does the same thing for a different character. Like maybe we could learn about Yoda when he was younger and why he's the only person of his species to talk that way, or what have you. Like there's so much potential to like not do a very big thing, but to give us a little bit of to let us peek behind the curtain of a few characters. I would appreciate this big time. Now, seeing as it's an animation with a TV budget, it wasn't as fluid as you would imagine, but it did the job well.
Hmm.
Just don't expect something that has like high levels of like animation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
guess. I guess.
It's this is created by the same dude that did the Mandalorian, I think. So
Favreau?
it's
Oh, is it?
yeah, so it's the same director, same writers. Dave Filoni, I think is his name. Let me double check. Yes,
Oh,
yeah, Dave Filoni. So he wrote, directed, and was the executive producer on both The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett.
wow.
So I think he was, a lot of these characters he was kind of involved into creating.
I love it. Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I love those shows as well. So I'm super
yeah.
happy to hear that
He
there's
was
a
he
through
was the
line.
writer of Tales of the Jedi. He didn't direct it himself, but he wrote it. I think like he was writing like stories of Jedi's, so
Hmm.
to say. Um, as he's working on the Mandalorian, he was like writing some short stories about different Jedi characters from the prequel eras,
Hmm.
and then like kind of wanted to use those in in this miniseries.
I love it. Okay, that's
Hmm.
super exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna check
cool.
out what else he's written because I'm a fan of his writing. That's clear.
Yeah, no, yeah. The ones I know about is like Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
Cool.
But yeah, I think he's yeah. I don't know if he's writing the third one. Probably the third season of
I
Mandalorian, which also is coming. So that's
I
also exciting.
I really tuned out of Star Wars. I have to say, after Rise of Skywalker, I haven't watched anything besides Andor.
Andor is the good one. If you're gonna, I
Andor
was
is
gonna
great.
say, if
Andor
you're
was
gonna
so
watch
good.
one thing, Andor was the thing you had to watch.
Yeah, it was so good. It was
And
preposterously
Mandalorian. Mandalorian was
Mandalorian is
great.
really, especially season one, is really really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mandalorian is great.
I had to watch Andor a second time because honestly, my hopes were not very high for it, and I watched it while doing other things. And then at one point, I'm like, "Wait, this is good," and I'm missing out, and I had to start over to understand what the story was about. But it was worth it. It was really, really good. I don't know if y'all
That's
do that
awesome.
too. The background watching a thing that you don't expect is great sometimes, just to have noise in the back. Or is that just a
I
me thing?
don't. I don't.
That's just a
Yeah.
me thing. Oh well.
I can either look at something, I can either watch something or not watch something.
Okay. No, I have categories of watching.
Right.
Um, speaking of watching, I watched one more thing.
Ooh,
If you want to hear about it,
a mini
Let's go.
segue. Yes,
a
let's
mini segue.
go.
It almost counts. So I watched a DC animated movie called Legion of Superheroes. As y'all know, I'm a huge comic book fan. In general, I love the MCU, even though everyone's saying, "Oh, they're tired of it, all that fatigue talk." I get that. I respect that. That's not me. Every single one that comes out, I'm super excited about. Um, but when it comes to the DCU, I'm not a fan. But when it comes to the animated DC movies, I'm a huge fan. I think they do animated movies better than Marvel. And this is no exception. It's called Legion of Superheroes, and it follows the story of Supergirl. A Supergirl who, if you know a little bit about the story of Supergirl, is like she was shot into space at the same time as baby Clark, from Krypton while the planet was exploding, except something happened and her pod that she was in was diverted, and as a result there was this weird time travel thing because she was a teenager and he was a baby, but he arrived on Earth, grew to be a man, and then she arrived like that's as a teenager. So fast forward to Legion of Superheroes, you see a Supergirl who's a teenager learning to control these powers that she's never had before and doing it badly, trying to be a superhero but like messing things up. And for the fans of the DC universe, you know that the Legion of Superheroes is the Justice League of the future. It's like 1,000 years into the future. So the very improbable like beginning of the movie, like how did Supergirl get involved with them, is the funniest thing. Superman was just like, well, you're wrecking things here, so I'm gonna send you into the future so that the Legion can train you and you can come back. Which is like the most ridiculous premise. If you squint past that premise, the rest of the movie is really good. It has themes of not judging a book by its cover and giving people a chance and that kind of thing. And it's really, really well executed, and it sets up like future possible interactions between the Legion and the Justice League that I find fascinating and interesting. In general, I'm not the biggest time travel type fan, especially a la carte time travel where it has no consequences and you could just do wild things. But like with superhero stuff, generally, you have to yeah, you have to forgive these things. There's a lot of really weird things happening to get to the story, and I feel like it's worth it to suspend your disbelief on this point alone. I thought it was a great movie.
Are you following like the DC universe generally?
Yes. So
Yeah,
I'm looking into the reboot that's happening now, and I
yeah,
feel even if it might end up being really good, I feel like they're repeating the same mistakes they did before.
Hmm.
yeah,
So what Marvel did really well is that they came and they said, "Hey, we are going to make the Marvel character who has the most mainstream appeal, and we're going to make that movie good." Hey, enter Iron Man, and Iron Man was good. And there were
hmm,
little hints that there's going to be more to come. When DC started it, they were like, "Hey, we're going to make a movie with Batman and Superman and 5 trailers of other characters that we're going to introduce later because we're going to beat MCU at their own game," and it fell flat on its face because that's not
yeah,
how you do it. There was remember the Tom Cruise Legion of Monsters, or I forget what it's called. They tried to do the same thing but with monsters, with Frankenstein and with like Dracula, and they have
Oh
it was
yeah,
Universal. Yes,
yeah.
so
That was like a minute.
yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. They did the same thing where they're like, we're going to start our own version of the MCU. They made one movie, it was meh, and then fell flat on his face. If the
Yeah,
DCU really wants to beat Marvel, like, look at what they did. Make solid movies and build on those. But like build
Hmm.
on the solid ones. Like I understand that the new Batman is too gritty for this. It's not. It's too gritty to be super mainstream. So maybe they don't want to pursue that, but that's what I would have done. I would have simply said, okay, this universe, that movie was good. Which other heroes can we introduce to this? And then give them their own spin-offs afterwards. Like a Green
yeah.
Arrow could have been something. Like that, for in that world, how do we envision them in that world? That's a smart, slow, steady approach to this that Marvel did initially, and now like they don't have to, right? But DC always tries to skip. So even though James Gunn, I believe, like he's good. Like I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I feel they're making the same mistake again, which is putting all their eggs in one basket right at the go and making all these big announcements to try to get hype. The stakes are too high now. One movie they could have pulled it off, and then they could have built on it. I think that would have been a safer approach.
I feel that because the Batman movie, I feel like the DC universe characters almost hinge on the success of a Batman movie.
Yeah,
And Batman movies are often so dark and gritty that they want to match it with all the other movies. Like
yeah,
Aquaman was kind of dark and gritty. Flash is trying to be dark and gritty. So like all of these, like all the DC direction and how they're making their movie, it's not like the type of movie that you think like they're almost like they're trying to be Marvel for adults, but then at
yeah.
the end of the day, you're still like watching people in spandex, and you go like, like you're taking this way too seriously for what it is. and it's kind of limiting the mainstream appeal of it.
Agreed.
Well, like Marvel is like the kind of movie, any Marvel movie, you kind of like, oh, I'm gonna take the kids and go and watch it, for example,
Yeah.
or like I'm gonna put it on and we're just gonna have a good time with friends and eat popcorn and just talk while it's happening. Like they're all
Mm-hmm.
lighthearted fun,
Mm-hmm.
even when there was like darker moments in the Marvel movies.
Mhm.
Overall, it was lighthearted fun
Right.
that
Right.
anyone could enjoy. Whereas like DC movies, even like the ones that are supposed to be goofy, they are very gritty in tone because I feel like they have to match Batman, whatever the current Batman movie is of the universe,
Yeah.
and because of it, it's just like yeah, but the Flash is not like Batman, and those two together is weird in a gritty setting. It's
Agreed.
not the kind of movie that everybody can go out and watch and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy in the
Mm-hmm.
same way.
To be quite honest, and I know this is an unpopular opinion, I thought they should have just continued from where Shazam was. Shazam was a good start. It was fun, it was lighthearted, it was colorful, it was whatever.
Yeah,
And they could have just made a Shazam verse. It didn't have to include all of the DCU and be huge. They could have had a separate Batman where it's gritty,
yeah,
and you could have offshoots of that where with characters that fit, and a separate Shazam, and like that could have been their MCU. We have three MCUs: the super like lighthearted, colorful. Sorry, DCUs. We could have like the
mhm,
I
super
was about to say
colorful. Yeah,
we have two
but
yeah,
MCUs: the one before Endgame and the one after Endgame.
but like I feel a plan that's different, that's actually built on what makes them good, is so much would have been so much better than MCU again, but with our characters. It
yeah,
failed the first time. Why do you think it's going to succeed the second? And I hope it does, because I love those characters too. I'm a big comic book fan in general, and I want them to succeed. But like
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Batman
just my
is
two
my
cents.
favorite. Is one of my favorite superhero,
Me
and
too.
I and I feel that like I really enjoy the Batman movies, and I don't enjoy much of the DC movies around them almost at all.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And like the new Batman movie is even darker than the previous one. So like good
Yes,
luck Aquaman
exactly right.
in keeping up with that.
He's gonna have a literal fish face now to be gritty and realistic.
It's so true. It's
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
true. I played a
Any-
bunch of video games
all right.
that I could tell you guys about.
go for it.
So I sampled. So I started two games that I haven't finished. I'll probably finish them by next week. Hopefully, we'll see. And one
Mm-hmm.
that I finished.
Okay.
So the first game I started playing last night, so it's fresh in my mind. It's called Wulong: The Fallen Dynasty.
Oh, how
I
is
was
it?
I was waiting for that. I didn't realize it
Yeah.
launched.
So it's the first of all, it's free on the Game Pass. Plug of the week.
Here we go. Let me get the check. Let me get the check marks.
Get the check,
And
ching,
check.
check. So it was launch day one on Game Pass. This is a game by Team Ninja, uh, the same team that made the Ninja Gaiden games and they made the Neo games, Neo One and Two. And this is a continuation of the Neo games. So it's a Souls-like game, so to say, but with the flavor of Team Ninja. So it's a lot faster and a lot more twitchy and a lot
Mm-hmm.
more tight, but the same kind of difficulty that you'd expect from that type of game, in which like you keep dying over and over again. Uh, you learn, you get better with the combat, and then you move forward.
Right.
Very reminiscent of Neo and Sekiro at the same time, because there's a heavy emphasis on parrying in this game
Oh
as a
yeah,
core mechanic. And I think Osama, and you will appreciate this because you're also into fighting games.
yeah,
So
big
Mm.
time.
I don't know why we keep doing this to ourselves, but it's totally that kind of game in which you have to get like the
Oh
right
boy.
timing, the
Yes.
right timing, and if you don't get that right timing, some attacks are unblockable and they do an insane amount of damage. But if you
Uh,
parry them, you do insane amount of damage back, and you can actually like kill the
Oh
enemy.
my gosh.
y-
So it's
Okay.
high risk, high reward.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing I'll say about that is younger Osama loved the parry mechanic a lot. Older Osama
Yeah.
like loves the idea of it but can't keep up. So I'll try
Uh,
it for sure. It's on Game Pass and I've been waiting for it. I'm super excited
yeah.
about it. I'm probably gonna get my butt handed to me at this point.
So that's what happened to me, like
Oh
last
no!
night. Last night I was like, I'm gonna have a nice, relaxing evening at home and play a video game, and instead I just allowed this game to kick my butt for the entire evening. So basically, Wulong just was beating me up for the entire evening, and I was loving it for it.
That's
uh,
awesome.
I could already tell that it's a fantastic game, very tight controls, like classic Team Ninja quality of what you expect from like an action game of that sort, and the same type of difficulty. I don't think that they can beat the From Software ability to create interesting worlds. I think very few developers in the world nowadays can
Mm-hmm.
really.
Yep. Yeah.
It was like as I'm playing this game and enjoying it, I couldn't help but to think is that Sekiro had a superior universe that I wanted to explore. Um, and like it's Sekiro, I think, had the better ability of throwing stuff at you that were surprising. And I
Mm-hmm.
think graphical fidelity of From Software games and Sekiro specifically um, is strikingly better. And
Yeah,
the reason why
their
I'm
world
comparing it,
building is unmatched, really.
yeah, it's unmatched. It's unfair to compare them, but at the same time, there's two games in which you play a samurai slash ninja kind of character.
Mhm. With the heavy
Set in
emphasis
like
on parries. Yeah.
exactly, heavy emphasis on parries, Dark Souls style system, with like bonfire ish mechanics, leveling up system, you die, you learn. So, when you go into that Dark Souls kind of avenue, it's impossible for you not to be compared to the masters. And
Right.
yeah, world building, I don't think they come close. But I think in combat tightness, there's enough new things in the system that I think is worth checking out for all the Souls fans, especially while you're waiting for the new Elden Ring DLC to drop, and you feel like being beaten up by a game. This is the one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exciting.
Okay.
I am
Yeah,
excited
I'm
to
gonna
try
give
it.
it a go. Like,
yeah.
I can't wait to, not win.
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to your guys' input because I think as game makers, it's hard not to appreciate the tightness of the three C's,
Right.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
and like how cool all of these systems come together. But
Yeah.
as an aging gamer, it's it's
As an old man.
as an old man.
Remember Dead or Alive when he used to ask you your age and change the settings accordingly? They should do that, but with like parry window.
Yeah.
Just like,
They should
you know.
ask you like, how old were you when Habibi and Nur Al Ain came out? And
That song is eternal. It's a trick question. You
Love it.
said you played two other games.
yes, I played an indie game called A Space for the Unbound.
Oh,
Oh, I heard about that.
yes. That is, I'm very happy that that game came out.
Dude, like me just watching the beginning credits and
Mm-hmm.
just reading the names of the people that made this game just made me
Mm-hmm.
smile.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like this is totally like the kind of game development scene I am very happy that is now existing.
Yeah.
So I think this is how can I describe this? This is a pixel art independent game in which it's more like an adventure game. I think is the closest thing I could say. It looks like an RPG, but it's not. It has like the art style of an RPG, but it's actually you're playing. You're collecting items. You're talking to people, and you're solving puzzles.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
this game, I believe, is made in Rami. You would know. I believe this is made in Indonesia.
Indonesia. It's still good productions.
Yes. Uh, the
Which
quality of everything is phenomenal.
Mm.
You know the team, Rami? Have you spoken
I
to
know
those
them
guys?
very well. I know them
Yeah.
very well. Toge is phenomenal. I would just want to add two pieces of context because I
Hmm.
think they're
Please
both
do.
important. So Toge is one of the older indie studios in Indonesia. A phenomenal studio, honestly. And the one thing I want to call out real quick is one of the founders of that studio, Mohammed Fahmi,
Yeah.
passed away at age 32 in March of
Wow.
last year. It was a devastating loss to the Indonesian game development community, and honestly, he was a wonderful soul, and he he would have been one of the people I would have loved to have had on the show, and it will forever be a regret of mine that I
Mm.
didn't get him on the show.
Mhm.
Oh man.
for like a proper full episode. So it is a wonderful studio that was built on so much hope and so many dreams, and I think Fahmi really embodied that. They've been making games. You might know them from Coffee Talk,
Yes.
Yeah, I know Coffee
um,
Talk.
right?
Yep.
And I think what I really like about um, Toge is that they understood at first that they couldn't lean into being Indonesian too much at the start, right? They needed that
Hmm.
audience to understand first. So most of the earlier games are actually set in the West. Like Coffee Talk is set in the West,
Seattle, I
right?
think.
Hmm.
Um, but then um, as soon as they had a little bit of that success, you started seeing them sneak in more and more. And now they're just, as Fauzi said, when you see that opening sequence, they're just completely um, they're just completely Indonesian now. They
Yeah.
just own their culture. They speak about it, and it's that invisible struggle that a lot of studios outside of the West have, trying to get to the point where they can actually make a game that's cultural. Because they first need that audience that will actually care enough to do the effort of getting into that culture.
And I think they
But
do a great job of like introducing some of that nuance of their culture as well through the
Mhm.
context of the game. So like when there is like an event that's happening that is, borrowed heavily from Indonesian culture, the characters will talk about it to kind of explain it to the player,
Yeah,
to tell them like, this is happening when the kids graduate from school and they need to talk to this person to help them figure out like what they need to do next. So like they add that context to
yeah,
kind of help the Western player kind of also understand the nuance of what they're
yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to point out that this game was, you might have noticed some controversy in the indie scene. There's always controversy in the indie scene, but this game was the game that was severely what's a polite word of saying it? The publisher was very bad to them. The publisher was called P Cube, and apparently it turned out that the publisher was actually skimming money off of diversity grants and stuff like
No
that.
Ooh.
way.
So this
And
is the
just
game that got affected by that.
yes,
I remember that hitting the
that was a
news.
space for the unbound, and that was one of those stories where there's a bunch of stuff that you just kind of do in the background in the games industry, and this is one of those stories where I wish that wasn't a thing that we needed to fight for in indie games. Just
Hmm.
you know being treated like real people. Um, but the fact that they managed to resolve that issue and the game came out, it makes me really happy. And the fact that you're playing it right now, Fuzzy, makes me really happy. So
Man, I'm enjoying it so
yeah,
much. Like I think I've only played 2 hours of it so far, and yeah, it's already like a serious contender for my game of the year. Uh,
amazing.
like it's the quality of the pixel art is world class. Like it stands out. You can tell that this is high quality. The writing is really high quality, and what I like about this game is that it has so much heart. It's
Yeah,
impossible to miss it. Like you can clearly tell everybody that touched this thing cares about it deeply, and there's a lot of the people that made this game within it.
yeah,
I'm loving it.
I
Uh,
cannot wait to play it. I'm super
yeah,
excited. I fell in love with the pixel art when I saw it on Twitter, and I added it to my very long backlog, and I just bumped it super high with all this context. Thank you,
yeah.
brothers.
yeah.
Of course, Habibi. I've had that actually on my waiting list for years. Like, I think I've seen like a video of it on a sizzle reel on an Xbox thing. I don't remember what was the event on a Nintendo thing. It was on Nintendo Indie World.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw it on a sizzle reel there, and I was like, "Oof, this game looks something." And then I think I talked to Rami about it, and he's telling me, "Yeah, these guys are from Indonesia." I was like, "From what?"
Yeah.
Yeah, this is super high on my games list. So I recommend it highly. I will finish this first probably before I get my butt kicked more by Wulong. But yeah, it's also perfect for the Steam Deck. Which
yeah, of course. It feels like it would be
it made
perfect
me
for it.
dust off my Steam Deck, and now like I'm playing it a lot on it. It's also on Switch, so it's also right at home on that console.
That's awesome.
Yeah, highly recommended. The yeah,
One
yeah,
last note, actually. I'm sorry for
yeah,
this
no
awkward
problem.
segue, but Steam Deck, are y'all being bombarded with articles about how we're not supposed to be enjoying our Steam Deck, or is that just me? Because I'm
I don't
loving my
know.
Steam Deck. I still use it like every day, and
Yeah,
I keep getting these pop-up ads of why this Steam Deck is bad or why it failed. And I'm like, what's going on here? What's the conspiracy? Why are you not letting me just enjoy my toy?
I'll be
I
honest.
have.
I'm
Go ahead,
I'm
Rami.
not enjoying my Steam Deck, so
Oh,
I.
so it
Yeah,
was you, Rami. You did
It's just
this.
me. It's just me.
Rami is sending it over.
Yeah.
I'm I don't listen much to people who tell me not to enjoy things on the internet.
Fair.
Good way of being.
Fair.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time a little, and I
Mm.
really want to sneak in one more topic.
Do it, man.
Shoot.
So Destiny 2 had a new update.
So subtle.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, just a giant storm started out here. Just as
Yeah.
soon as I said Destiny 2, just rain started falling out of nowhere.
We've been
Um,
snowing for hours in Stockholm.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Um, so the oh wow, you're gonna hear this on the recording if it gets any louder. No, so Destiny 2 had its new expansion release, which is its yearly chapter update. A
Hmm.
lot of really big things have been happening, and I think there was a severe mismatch of expectations here because it's not bad,
Hmm.
but it's
But
not it's not what people expected. Like here's the thing, narratively, it's just not very strong. And I think the largest part of that is that I don't think Bungie is telling the story the way people expected them to be telling the story, which was sort of like the big moment right now, and then a year of like seasonal story to sort of like deal with things.
Hmm.
And instead, what we're getting is like a question mark of like something weird happened. Nobody knows what it is. And I think we're going to spend a year figuring out how bad that actually is.
wow.
And it's cool, but it's really not what we were set up for. Like a lot of really seismic things have happened in the Destiny universe recently, like the Traveler, the big orb that has been in place for like 9 years, like left us, went to space. There was a big fight being set up. Like the forces of darkness were out on doorstep, and then Forces of Darkness kind of like strolled over to the Traveler and touched it and went like, "Oh hey, the thing we need is on Neptune," and then just left.
Wow.
Okay.
And we was like, wait, what? Okay, but what is on Neptune then? That must be very important. And it's like, we don't know. It's like, okay, but we should do something about that. And it's like, probably, let's go. And it's like, but we don't know. It's like, no. Also, where are we gonna find Neptune? What's there? A city? Do we care? We don't know. Um, so there was just a lot of question setting, and then just not a lot of answers, and that's just not really what I'm sorry, you guys. Like, did I just mentioned that rainstorm just starting?
Yeah.
The It was completely gray outside like 10 seconds ago, and it looks like that cloud just fell to earth and it's just blue.
It descended
It just
upon you.
blew. The skies just blue all of a sudden.
Wow.
It's still raining, but like this, I've never seen anything like this. This is beautiful. um wow. um
The
wow.
weather has been wild here in Sweden. Actually, like
Yeah.
we had an aurora over Stockholm. I think two nights ago, and then since then it's been snowing nonstop. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Wow.
what's going on? It's like end of days here in Sweden.
For us, it's the opposite. We had a lot of snow, and I started shoveling on Sunday, and then it got super hot, and all the snow became wet and heavy and slushy. And today it's over like above 0 degrees Celsius, so everything is melting, and it's just a mess. When people imagine like beautiful snow in Montreal, it's December, not March.
Right. Very true. Very true.
But I think all of these, like these strange and tough weather conditions, they're signs that there's a big disturbance in the force because I believe Rami doesn't like something Destiny for the first time.
Right.
Oh no!
Well,
All of this is
it's
like the universe is shaking. It's like,
Oh
what's
so
no!
it's
happening?
weird, right? Like it's weird because the gameplay is better than ever. Like in fact, on Twitter, I called it Destiny ODST, and it is really Destiny ODST. Like it's down to the story, but it also means that some of the best work that they've done in terms of scenario, in terms of combat, in terms of everything is in this expansion. Like there's incredible highlights in there. It's just narratively, it didn't do what we felt they set up to do.
Mhm.
And I think in a way, like Bungie will be able to make up for it with this year of content, right? Like they have a year to explain what just happened because what just happened is not what we expected. Um, so yeah, we have time to figure it out. They have time to like strain it out. It's just not what we expected. We expected sort of like big answers now and then a year of like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Instead, we kind of got like, yeah, this happened. Um, we don't really know what it means, and yeah, that's just not really what we expected. That said, the gameplay is on point. Like it's very, very, very good.
Mhm.
Lots of like quality of life improvements, loadouts. The mod system was made better. There's finally onboarding in this game. They finally did it. They finally
Is it
made a
good
thing.
onboarding? Like, can
It
I
actually
actually
is
pick it up
fairly
and
good onboarding.
really?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They now have this sort of journey system that sort of like points you at what you could do or should do.
I'm
Uh,
super happy to hear that, but what took them so long?
I
I
mean,
mean,
frankly, it's probably just infrastructure. Like
yeah.
Destiny is like layers on layers on layers of tech debt.
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand like what content is still available and what isn't. Every time I talk to people about new expansions, and it feels like it's random flip of the coin whether you can play something old or not.
It's not really. The basic way it works is expansion. So main campaigns you can continue to play
Mhm.
all the way back to Forsaken. That's that one is out. But anything from Shadowkeep onward you can still play, which includes Beyond Light, and includes the Witch Queen, and it includes now Lightfall. Those campaigns you can still play. The seasonal stories that happen every quarter, those are gone.
Mm.
And then the exotic missions, which are sort of like side missions that happen throughout the season where you can get special gear or special items, those are usually really funky and really interesting and weird. Um, those continue to stay.
Interesting. Okay, so they do have
So,
a system. Like people who play the game understand. It's not a
yeah,
surprise. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay, that's what's
So
important.
I'm very not confused, but I'm cautiously optimistic about Lightfall, which is very different from Witch Queen, where I was just like just yelling about it. But this has potential to be really good. They've set some cool chess pieces on the board.
That's super
So
exciting.
yeah,
I'm
we'll
happy for
see.
you.
When does it connect? Like, when do you see like where the pieces fit?
So these first 3 months is called Season of Defiance, and apparently we're gonna figure out some stuff about the pyramids, which is sort of like the bat group.
Hmm.
Um, and um, beyond that, probably the season after that, which is in about 3 to 6 months.
Okay. So they could have a surprise, basically. Like, like this is a
Yeah,
setup, and then they're gonna build something on it.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. It's fun. It's a really different place um, than we expected. Like we expected dark grim, and we got like Neon City.
Hmm.
So we'll see where it grows. Like the raid is going to come out like I think this week, so that'll be really really exciting. Contest mode will be on, so everybody will be racing to be the first one to clear that raid. I'm not going to be it. I'm not even strong enough to do it yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, these are always exciting times in Destiny, and the raid usually opens up a piece of lore or a piece of story that isn't available just yet. So when the first crew clears that raid, the story will actually progress. So that'll probably be this week.
Nice. It's Bungie, so they're bound to. Yeah, they're good.
I'm excited to see what happens. And that's one thing they got really right. I can't believe it just entirely that cloud just literally fell from the sky. Um, no, but I'm really excited to see what happens. So
Cool stuff, man. Have you
Yeah.
played anything else you want to talk about?
I haven't. I've been at Dice. I've been in Gdansk. I've been like just playing Destiny like it's nobody's business. I haven't even flown airplanes. Like just to make clear how overwhelmed I've been this past
Oh
week,
man,
2 weeks.
you should have flown over Gdańsk. That's a beautiful skyline if I've ever seen any.
The Gdansk one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could have. I just didn't have time because it was such a short event, and I was there so last minute that
yeah, true.
I just couldn't set it up. But I was really happy I came to Poland. I had such an amazing time. Like saw
Same.
amazing people, spent really good time, had amazing food,
Oh my God.
took great photos, like had a good time hanging out with people. So yeah, no, Gdansk is a very fond memory.
Yeah, same for me, man. I enjoyed it quite a
Yeah,
bit.
Awesome.
All right. Do we still have time for me to talk about the one last game?
let's do it.
Speed run it.
All right. So this is actually like very fitting because it's a short game. The game is called Gibbons Beyond the Trees.
Oh
So
yeah, that's good.
it's also a small indie game. Prior to playing this game, I didn't know much about gibbons, to be honest with you.
Oh.
For like gibbons, monkeys, potatoes, you know.
Yeah.
And what I like about this game is that it centers around a core mechanic. You're playing as a gibbon, and you're swinging on trees,
Okay.
and you alternate with the left and the right shoulder buttons to
Okay.
do that motion to swing on trees. And as a gibbon, you're really having a lot of fun swinging on trees, you know? So like so far
I
so
love
good.
that
And then
user story. As a gibbon.
as a gibbon, I like to swing on trees. You know, like I think like that's like how the game starts. Like I want people to really have fun swinging in this game because that's what the gibbons love to do.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so you start playing, and you're just like going around, like you're just swinging on trees, trying to like time your presses and your jumps, so that you get like the best momentum moving through the forest, which is like a really freeing feeling that the game like really does really well. And the concept of the game is to show humans' effect on the gibbon's life.
Mm.
So as the game progresses, you start to see like how human intervention in nature is like really making it difficult for these gibbons to just be
Yeah.
themselves, and and that affects you as a player, which I thought was one of the most brilliant things about this game, because as you progress in the game, forests are burnt or houses are built, and your ability to swing becomes more and more difficult. Therefore, humans in the game are literally disrupting your fun.
Oh.
It's taking you out of the flow because as you're swinging in the forest, there's plenty of spaces to swing around. I guess like to make it like close in people's imagination. This is the closest thing is like when you're playing Spider-Man and you're swinging all over town, and then you come across Central Park,
Fall
and
to
then,
the
and then
ground.
you and then you can't swing properly. So like as you usually in Spider-Man, you try to avoid Central Park just because there aren't enough spots there for you to put your web and swing and do the thing that you enjoy the most.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Good example.
And in this game, it's exactly like that. You see a human race coming into the forest, kidnapping gibbons and destroying the forest, like screwing up your fun.
Wow.
And I love that because it wasn't just a thematic element to tell you how human intervention is making these animals' lives worse. You as a player feel it through mechanics.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's really
Very,
powerful.
very powerful. A
Yeah.
brilliant game. It's a very short game, so it's like if you have an hour and a half, you can finish it, but you can keep on swinging for another couple of hours if you want afterwards. And it is touching. It is very educational, and it confirmed through mechanics. And I have to admit, like I said, I went in, I didn't know anything about gibbons. I came out of this game knowing quite a bit about these
Right.
animals. Like I've learned so much about these animals through like the mechanics that this game offered. But this is like one of those really like games beyond entertainment kind of thing.
Mhm. It's
Wonderful
beautiful.
game. I recommend it for everybody.
It's so good. It's so
It's
good.
really really good game.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it. You're giving me too
Yeah.
many games to try. I don't have that much time, Yafozi. You have to slow down.
Take vacation, man. You don't need
Yeah,
the
I
job.
should. I should. I should. I should just
Time for early
retire and play
retirement.
games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
go Habibis full time.
We should have like a Habibi's retirement house. We're just sitting there playing MMOs all day.
I'm in. I'm.
And we're putting Amr Diab in the background
Oh,
and
perfect.
and like sit outside on the porch and we eat seeds. We eat watermelon seeds with our fake teeth.
Shall I just start the percussion again?
As old people will be able to do a bunch of drumming as we're
Right,
singing.
right. Just like just sprain my wrist on the first try.
I love
just
the
start-
sound of this.
Click with my fake teeth is what I'll be doing.
I love it.
All right, I guess it's time to put a doily on this.
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's been
Because,
wonderful. I've missed y'all big time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
miss you
good to
too.
catch up with all of you folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know you
Always
have
good.
other things you want to swing to next. Osman.
Love it.
So this has been this week's episode of the Habibi. Thank you for tuning in. Send us emails at info@thehabibis.com. You'll make Osama very happy, and
Yes,
we
you
will
will.
hopefully have time next week to read some of them. And join us at our Discord at discord@thehabibis.com. Other than that, there'll be another one like these next week, inshallah.
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 Inshallah. But for the time being, salam.
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 That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I am Fawzi Masmar, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Fawzi Masmar. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Rami Ismail, who you can find on Twitter at THA_Rami. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. Intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubayla, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcasting service, or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening. Salam.